Why did the Rust Belt become, well, the Rust Belt? We've all heard stories about the struggling economy of cities like Detroit or Cleveland, but the true scale of the Rust Belt's collapse is actually pretty staggering. Consider this. In 1950, 5 of the 10 largest cities in America were located in what was then known as the Steel Belt. These were some of the most productive and wealthy places in the entire country, and many of them had seen record-breaking population growth for over a century. Combined, they have lost more than 3.8 million people. And that's just what happened to 5 cities. When we look across the entire region, the numbers are even more shocking. Toledo shrank by 29%. Cincinnati and Rochester fell by over 35%. Buffalo and Pittsburgh lost over half of their population. But perhaps nowhere is the sheer collapse of the Rust Belt more apparent than in St. Louis, Detroit, Gary, and Youngstown. Each of these cities have lost more than 2/3 of their residents, leaving behind a sea of abandoned houses, apartment buildings, schools, and factories. So, how did an entire region go from serving as the heartland of America's Industrial Revolution to becoming synonymous with urban decay? There are a lot of theories thrown around, from free trade agreements to the rise of automation and the outsourcing of manufacturing jobs. But there's one hidden cause behind this decline that almost all politicians and a lot of economists regularly ignore, largely because they themselves are responsible for the collapse. That's because for over a century, American politicians in both parties championed things like subsidies, tariffs, and regulations with the goal of protecting domestic industries from outside competition. And for a long time, this protectionist approach seemed to work. But in trying to defend America's industrial heartland, these policies actually ended up sowing the seeds for its demise. By insulating America's manufacturing base, these political leaders inadvertently removed any sort of incentive for innovation or efficiency. As a result, once other countries like Japan and Germany rebuilt their industries after World War II with more modern and efficient technologies, American factories struggled to compete. At the same time that the Rust Belt was collapsing, these other countries began to boom. And what's more, it's not like factory workers in Tokyo or Cologne were making poverty wages. Even today, manufacturing still makes up a huge portion of the German and Japanese economy. And this fact shatters the narrative that manufacturing is something that only poorer countries like China can compete in. Ultimately, a combination of outdated technologies, inefficient practices, and a lack of innovation and competition is what left American industries behind. The result has been an unprecedented level of economic devastation for a huge swath of the Midwest. But the good news is, this decline is completely reversible. America has the resources, the workforce, and the entrepreneurial spirit to regrow its industrial base. But the only way to do this is by learning from the past rather than repeating it. If we want to see the Rust Belt return to being the economic powerhouse that by all rights it can be, we cannot repeat the same policy mistakes that led to its destruction in the first place. As the economist Ludwig von Mises once said, progress in society comes from innovation, and the only way to foster innovation is to allow individuals the freedom to act.
Do you have a why you would like us to answer? Go into the link in the description and pose your question, and maybe the next Why Minutes will be dedicated to you.